should Canadians be concerned about a pattern of deplorable employment practices at Bell Media?
Jamil Javani absolutely grills the CEO of Bell. This is quite the sight to see. I can't wait to see him going head to head with some of the Liberals, with maybe Justin Trudeau. He's got a strong, powerful voice that just commands presence. The CEO of Bell was brought in to testify. He's asked a lot of questions why he laid off thousands of people in that layoff session. The Conservatives do not hold back. And starting off here, we're going to start off with a clip of Jagmeet. Jagmeet likes to be a man of the people, Mr. Gucci Bags here, but he does set the stage well for before the Conservatives come in. Let's jump into this.
It's pretty clear that things are going well at Bell if you're a shareholder and a CEO, but not if you're a worker and not if you're a consumer. Bell reported a whopping $2.3 billion in profit last year. As CEO, you, the chair, profited or pocketed $13.43 million in compensation. But Canadians are paying some of the highest cell phone and internet fees in the world. You laid off in 9 months over 6,000 employees. How does a profitable company justify these layoffs, particularly in light of the hundreds of millions of dollars in subsidies from the government? How do you justify that? And is it just about making even more profits? You're already profitable. So what is the justification?
So, you know, when we make our decisions, we have our consumers front of mind in terms of media, our viewers front of mind, the investments we need to make to better serve consumers and viewers. And we're doing this in an environment with, as I said earlier in the appearance, increasing costs, bad foreign exchange, high inflation, increased competition, which is a fundamentally good thing. So we have to manage all that.
Mr. Beard, just to understand, did you say that your justification for laying off workers is because you had the consumers in mind? I must have misheard that, because that does not make any sense at all to me, sir.
Oh, it makes very good sense, because what we're trying to do is continue to grow.
You fired 6,000 workers because you're worried about consumers.
If I may, correct, because we want to continue.
I have a hard time understanding that. Well, I thought I must have misheard you, sir, but go on then.
No, I'll explain. In Canada, we have one of the most poorly performing economies in the industrialized world. We have a massive productivity problem, which the Bank of Canada has identified as a crisis. We have to adjust to that macroeconomic environment around us so that we can continue to grow our revenues, yes, so that shareholders and lenders will continue to give us capital so that we can continue to invest to better serve consumers. That's how the loop.
Okay.
That's how it all.
This is what you would expect at the CEO of Bell, just a guy who only cares about numbers and money. This guy doesn't care about people at all. And you can see here, he's basically blaming Justin Trudeau, like the second worst economy on the planet. This guy has no problem pointing out that Justin Trudeau is an absolute failure in this country. And Jagmeet, the hypocrisy man, keeping Trudeau in power and then talking about caring about the people. Come on, Jagmeet.
I don't agree that this is something you had to do. You chose to give $3.71 billion in dividends to shareholders. You chose to buy back stocks for $140 million in 2023. You pocketed a staggering 42% pay increase from 2020 to 2023. You could have chosen to prioritize workers with that money. You could have chosen to give consumers a break and make it more affordable for cell phone and internet fees, particularly at a time when people are struggling with the cost of living. But you chose greed. How do you justify that? Those are choices you made.
Thank you for the question. I would start with we are continuing to lower wireless prices each and every day to the point where our prices are fundamentally lower than they are in the U.S. In fact, I appeared on March 18th in front of Indu, and we established all those facts. I'm sure the transcript is available. Just this week, we launched a new service at very low prices called Noname Mobile, which is going to better serve customers who are in the market for lower-priced cell phone plans.
Let's actually look at this Noname Mobile he's talking about. So I found it here. This is Noname Mobile. It's part of the No Frills brand. $19 a month, 1 gigabyte of data, 2 gigabytes of total data, including auto top-up bonus, whatever that means. Unlimited calls Canada-wide and to the US. $24 a month, 4 gigs, 55 gigs for $34 a month. Just to compare this, The cheapest one I know of is the Freedom Mobile. They've recently upgraded. They have 5G now. So if you're 4G LTE, 20 gigs for $30 a month. 5G, you can get, let's see here, 50 gigs for $34 a month. 34 a month for 55 gigs. They obviously looked at the Freedom Mobile and they wanted to undercut them. So it does seem that this no-name brand is the cheapest one. Bit of food for thought, or whatever that saying is.
We're trying to, fundamentally, we need to come to grips with, if we don't have Canadian companies that grow and that invest in critical infrastructure like ours and that create jobs, we're going to have a massive problem in the country. And that goes for media as well. Like, we should be having a discussion, broadly speaking, because we have the right forum for this and the right individuals here. How do we fix Canadian media? Because without a Canadian broadcasting system, there will be no news, except maybe the CBC.
Thank you.
And we need to figure
Oh, we got news right here, man, and it's uncorrupted.
out how to keep Canadian news alive, and I'd love to have that conversation as well with the honourable members.
Jagmeet goes on here to just pretend he's like some man of the people. He's just like standing up there like some leader. You know, he's propping up Trudeau for years now and causing all this suffering for his golden $2.2 million pension. Next up, we got Rachel Thomas, a conservative who rips apart this Bell CEO.
So Bell has a worth of about 40 billion with a B, $40 billion. This is a company that is worth $40 billion, has received hundreds of millions of dollars in government handouts, which, let's be reminded, are taxpayer dollars. And yet, this is a company that just laid off 6,100 of those taxpayers. Is that justified?
May I now answer all these questions? There were several there. So having
just
Canadian
one.
companies,
Mr. Bibick, there's just one question.
Having strong Canadian companies is a fundamentally good thing.
I think Ms. Thomas is trying to clarify the question.
Well, Chair, if there was, I've not yet had an opportunity to even provide one sentence of an answer. So I'd just like an opportunity to comment.
She said, and not three.
Mr. Bibick, you're right. You actually have answered with a few sentences. You said, I don't know, about 5 different times, maybe 6 different times. So I'm hoping perhaps you'll know the answer to this question, and that is it justified that you just laid off 6,100 employees in the last 8 months when you have received hundreds of millions of dollars from the federal government, and it is a company worth $40 billion?
I would think that we'd want strong Canadian companies that can continue to employ tens of thousands of Canadians. We employ 40,000 Canadians with good paying jobs. We are right now faced with an economy where we have difficult foreign exchange with the U.S. Most of our inputs are in U.S. dollars. The costs of inputs are increasing. Inflation is rampant in Canada. Unemployment's at 6.1% in March alone.
Mr. Bibick,
our content costs for Bell Media are increasing.
I don't know that you have an answer.
We have a massive productivity issue in Canada. So these are the macroeconomic factors that all Canadian companies, including Bell, are dealing with, and we're trying to adapt and adjust so that we can continue to grow, which is a good thing, and that we can continue to hire and retain and employ 40,000 Canadian companies.
Mr. Bibick.
That's a very good thing.
Mr. Bibick, I'll just take a moment here just to remind you about this committee. As a member of Parliament, a duly elected member of Parliament, I sit here at this table able to ask any question that I wish. And your job is to answer those questions, not in a way that you wish to answer or to make the spiel that you wish to put out there, but rather in a factual manner. And if you fail to do so, we have every ability to bring you back in a summons.
Obviously, this is a businessman. He's a slippery snake. He's just trying to deflect and avoid all the questions. And what you're about to see here is unreal.
Mr. Bibic, let's talk, shall we? In recent years, several of Bell Media's female employees have left your company amid accusations of discrimination. Patricia Jaggernoth left CP24 claiming she was being tokenized as a black woman. Danielle Graham left CTV eTalk, claiming that it was in part due to sexism. And of course, we've seen multiple media reports suggesting that Lisa LaFlamme was pushed out of CTV News due to ageism. Now, of course, Bell celebrates its supposed commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is all over your website, Mr. Bibich. But I am curious to know if you can clarify to Canadians, should Canadians be concerned about a pattern of deplorable employment practices at Bell Media?
So we thank you for the question. The issue that's being surfaced is very, very important, and we do take it very seriously. I'm very proud of the talented group of diverse journalists that we have across the country, and the job reductions were kind of difficult and unfortunate. I mean, a smaller number of the broader number affected Bell Media directly, but we have the same percentage now as before of diverse journalists, and we have a lot of phenomenal accomplishments and success stories like Sandy Ronaldo, who celebrated 50 years on air. TSN would be a great example. We have incredibly talented women broadcasters, and we were the first to have an all-women NBA broadcast, for example. And if you take the broader Bell, if you look at kind of the CEO and the direct reports, that's me, and the people who directly report to me. Before I became CEO, 15% were women. Now it's 30%. And then one level below that, the senior vice president layer of BCE in 2019, 20% were women, and now it's double that. So we take it seriously. There's more work to do, of course.
If I could just suggest,
we got to do more.
It sounds to me like you may be proving some of the allegations correct in your response, given you're engaging in tokenism in your answer. None of this hiring of people based on quotas or percentages, as you seem to be indicating, would necessarily make Bell immune from the allegations made of tokenism, racism, sexism, and ageism. So do you have a response to those concerns, and whether Canadians should be worried that one of the largest media companies in the country has a pattern of deplorable employment practices?
No, I would think it's an issue that we take very seriously. So if there are incidents, we will investigate them and make sure they are addressed. But more broadly, we seek to do better each and every year, and we want to have as diverse a workforce as possible at all levels of the company, men, women, and of course talent and employees from community, Black, Indigenous, and people of color those communities as well. It's a very important issue. Thank you for raising it.
When you laid off 5,000 workers, and if you could not evade it this time, I'd appreciate it. When you laid off 5,000 workers, what percentage of them were Black or Indigenous?
I don't have these specific numbers at my fingertips, but we could file that with the clerk.
Yeah, that would be great if you could file that, because I'd be curious to know what role diversity, equity, and inclusion policies play when deciding to fire 5,000 Canadian workers. For example, do you have separate Zoom calls for the Black workers and the white workers, or how do you approach that?
Well, so what are you referring to, again, the employees who form part, the unionized, non-management unionized employees, or the management groups? Because the management groups would have had individual.
I'm talking in total.
Those in management would have had individual meetings.
You've given us a word salad so far about how important DEI is to your company, and yet it doesn't seem that you thought about DEI when firing 5,000 Canadian workers. So I'd like some clarity on the role DEI plays when firing 5,000 people.
Madam Chair, I'm not sure why the honourable member phrased the question in that manner. I did indicate that as it relates to Bell Media, we have the same percentage now of diverse journalists as we did prior to the restructuring, and as it relates to how we communicate with employees, they were individual meetings, and there was a separate process with respect to the unionized employees that we discussed in advance with Unifor, the union in question, who fully endorsed the process that we adopted, which I'm happy to go into if we have the time. But
no, you don't. Actually, this time has now got 1 second left in it. So I'm going to move now to the next speaker.
Okay, so that's where they end that there. Jamil Giovanni just roasting that guy. He's not... There's no wiggle room around that. He just crushed that guy. That Bell CEO's got to be one of the most stone cold. It's just like the things he's asking him, the things he's saying, and it just goes like... He's just able to just completely zone out and just be Mr. Moneybags and be like, oh yeah, we hired these people and yeah, we got a lot. Like, just there's no emotion in that guy. I wouldn't be surprised if it's just half robot in there or something, but he's a tin man. He doesn't have a heart. Next up, we got a clip here from Michael Cooper, who you can see here, you can partially see here. Top Trudeau Liberal broke the law and compromised national security. So with Trudeau testifying, there's a whole bunch of stuff that came out. Basically, Trudeau's just blaming CSIS. It's come out that he doesn't read his briefing notes. He's just an absolute schmuck and a fool. And Michael Cooper does not hold back. He is just obliterates him.
Someone connected to the Prime Minister leaked classified information that consequently disrupted an ongoing CSIS intelligence operation. And in so doing, they committed a serious criminal offense. They contravened Section 4 of the Security of Information Act, an offense that is punishable as an indictable offense with a term of imprisonment of up to 14 years. It is about as serious as it gets. Someone, one of those 4 people, the Prime Minister himself, or a select number of chiefs of staff in this Liberal government who would have also had at the time the requisite security clearances, leaked classified information that then undermined and thwarted a CSIS intelligence operation to advance the partisan interests of the Liberal Party and that benefited a hostile foreign state, the Beijing-based communist regime. As I see it, there are at least 4 questions in the face of this shocking report that need to be answered, and that is, which top Liberal official illegally leaked the classified information? Who tipped off then Liberal candidate, now member for Don Valley North, that he was a target or at least being monitored by CSIS? When did the Prime Minister first learn of this criminal leak? Did the Prime Minister, once he knew, and he did know, he had to have known, did he refer this criminal leak, this major national security breach by one of his top Liberal officials, to the RCMP? This latest piece in a massive scandal involving Beijing's interference and the Prime Minister turning a blind eye, in some ways giving a green light to it when it benefited him, highlights the absolute rot and corruption of this Prime Minister and those around him.
Well said, Michael Cooper. Yeah, Justin Trudeau's corrupt. There's no surprise there. We all know that. Seems every day the corruption just starts to get, it's like an onion. It's getting peeled off one layer at a time, and it starts to stink even more, and it stinks even more, and it's just getting stinkier and stinkier the deeper it goes. But it just seems this is an endless onion. And while we thought maybe it was just an onion this size, and maybe it's an onion this size, and that's why there's so many layers, so much stink to this onion. At some point, we'll get to the bottom of this corruption, but I think it's probably going to be after Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives get in power. They'll reopen investigations, do proper investigations where they have full access and full voting rights to get all the papers and documents they need and open this up. It'll probably be a couple years out before we can get Trudeau put behind bars for all this stuff. All his other cronies who are directly involved. I wonder how many of the Liberals are directly involved in all these scandals. If it's all of them, is it all a big ploy? They all work together to get rich? Is it only some of them are included? I got to think he's got to have a tight-knit circle. It can't be all of them, but it's got to be probably a good handful of them. Next up, jumping over onto X here, we've got Stephen Guilbeault kissing Boris Johnson's butt. A conservative who takes climate action serious. What's the secret? Carbon pricing. Like, this is so rich from a guy who making $300,000 a year. Like, seriously, man. The hypocrisy is out of control. Next up, we got bonehead loser Shan Frasier, the man who's directly responsible for immigration and housing destroying Canada.
We can solve the housing crisis. I'm
We will by getting rid of
a
you.
sense of optimism most days because I'm dealing with the people who are implementing the solutions across Canada that we know are working, and now we need to scale them up dramatically. We need to do a few key things if we're going to get there. One is to build more homes.
Oh, this guy is just build more homes. Oh, congrats there, Einstein.
Reducing the cost of home building, making it easier to build homes,
Oh, really?
and changing the way that industry can actually build homes. We also need to make it easier, particularly for young people, to find a place that they can afford to rent or buy. And we
This guy is like, oh, 1 + 1 is 2, and 2 + 2 is 4, and 4 + 1 is 5. Congrats. Which reminds me here, I actually have this other clip queued up here. We'll only listen to like a couple seconds of, because look at this gang of thieves here. Like a bunch of gangsters. So the official title here is Ministers Wilkinson and McKinnon Discuss a Sustainable Jobs Bill.
From industry, from Indigenous organizations, and from youth. It is something that will actually help us to drive forward to ensure that Canada will not only remain prosperous, but will be increasingly prosperous in what must be a lower carbon future. It is an extremely important part of addressing the climate crisis and giving Canadians comfort that we can actually go on this journey in a manner where they will have jobs and economic opportunity going forward. It is very disappointing from my perspective that
What is going on here? This guy he's falling into his shirt. He's just disappearing into his jacket. He doesn't look comfortable to be there. He's like, I don't want to be standing here. This guy looks like he just climbed out of Chrétien's crypt.
that the Conservative Party has adopted what they have done in terms of blocking this bill. It was introduced almost a year ago. We have
Look at Seamus O'Regan back here. He's like, oh, I'm just playing Pokemon Go on my... It's just like... These guys, it's all about the green agenda. Who cares about Canadian lives? Green agenda. Next up, we got a clip here from Daisy Media, which you can see here is from Lynn Brooks on YouTube. Narcissists should not be in Parliament. This is Justin Trudeau getting heckled. Absolutely heckled.
We want an end to the lies and the corruption. Stop the war machine. Stop the COVID lies. Your lies have left a wake of destruction and death and decay all across our country. You and your policies. Stop the lies. Your lies and corruption are destroying the country. War lies and COVID lies. Liar. Corruption. Stop the war machine. Stop the corruption. Stop the lies. You're a failure. Everyone hates you. Stop the lies. Stop the corruption. Corruption. War machine. Warmongers. Stop the war machine. Stop the war machine. Stop the lies. Stop the corruption.
My favorite part of that is you're a failure. Here we got a clip of Jagmeet asked if he wants to scrap the carbon tax.
Yeah, do you want to get rid of the consumer carbon price?
Well, what we want to do is we want to lay out our vision, a new Democrat vision for how we tackle the climate crisis. I don't want the burden to fall on working people. So we want to lay out our plan, which addresses the real solutions and using government power to tackle big polluters, and that unites working people together.
So for the consumer price specifically, though, do you want to get rid of it? Do you want to pause it? Do you want to stop the hikes? Like, what are you proposing here?
For our full plan, we're going to release that plan and we're going to present that to Canadians. So we don't have our full plan laid out.
Yeah. Do you want to get rid of the...
He said nothing. He said absolutely nothing. This is a man who's in the charge of a party, the New Democrat Party, who has nothing. He has no plan. Next up, we got a clip here where it says this pissed him off. Yeah, you can see Trudeau's body language here. He is really pissed off. But he's still in Prime Minister mode. He's holding it all in.
Canadians to build trust. But as Mr. Johnson's report makes clear, you had intelligence and you were briefed on an attempt by Beijing to meddle in our democracy, and you didn't tell the public. Given that, doesn't rebuilding trust have to start with you? And going forward, do you have to create a better disclosure regime that discloses these sorts of attempts to meddle in our democracy, even especially when it benefits your party?
Sorry, Justin, I'm still hung up on the fact that you think I wasn't telling Canadians about foreign interference.
Canadians to build.
So you can see here, this is right when he first says that. He opens his arms up, he looks down, and now he won't look the reporter right in the eye. And you can see he just keeps looking down, looking down. It's brewing. The anger's brewing. The furrowed brow. See, he still doesn't even connect eyes with him. Pierre Poilievre delivered a speech at a conference, I think it was around like noon, and this crazy climate lady got in there and started trying to heckle and stuff.
100,400 people fired!
They all cheered. She's getting thrown out. She's all chanting axe the tax.
There's such an outburst of enthusiasm.
Finally, we're going to wrap up a video with this. Quiet everybody, Trudeau is talking. This image here is like so spot on. This is crazy. That's where we're going to wrap up this episode. Thanks for watching here. If you want to check out other content, I've got all my other channels linked up down below. I've got merch linked up down below. Be sure to subscribe, turn on the bell notifications so you get notified of all my videos, and hit the thumbs up. Greatly appreciate all you. We got to keep fighting the fight. We're going to get this fool out of power. We got to keep fighting the fight and keep fighting for freedom. I'll see you guys in the next one.